Lane from Nationwide.
Hi, Ling. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
Good.
I'm happy it's above freezing, so the day's starting out nicely.
We are finally above freezing in North Carolina as well.
Which is weirder for you, but yes, I'm glad
we had,
you are.
I think almost like 10 days, if not 2 weeks below freezing, which was just absurd.
Yes. It's been crazy. It's been wild weather. Okay, so it is 8:01. I think we might as well go ahead and get started. We have a number of people on, Mike, and it looks like some are still joining. I can run through the list that I see right now, and if anybody else is there and you want to chime in, that would be great. I see Ajay, Dan is on, Ling's on, Grace from Dayton, and then Mike is on, and Lynette Lee. And then Rayanne said she was on the phone as well. Is there anybody else that is on the line? Okay. Mike, did you have any announcements before we get started?
The only quick announcement that I have is that we've welcomed a new team member to the combined team this week, Darlene Amato, who is taking the position that Michelle Robinson vacated late in the fall. And so Darlene is going to be based at UNC and is going to be the project manager for all of the different moving pieces of Combine. But in terms of the site-facing perspective, it will still be the Cincinnati-based project management team with Michelle JP, who's leading our call today, and Josh, and all of our study monitors and data people who are all based at Cincinnati. But any sort of protocol-related questions or pharmacy snafus or any of that sort of lab-related biosample specimen questions, those will all sort of continue to funnel down to our UNC team, and Darlene will be getting up to speed very quickly, filling in the gap that Michelle Robinson left. So that is my only announcement. I believe Darlene will be on our investigator call on Thursday this week, but you'll be seeing some emails and her face over the coming months. So a special thank you and welcome to Darlene. And back to you, Michelle.
Okay, great, thanks. Yes, and we here in Cincinnati are very excited to have Darlene on board too, so looking forward to getting to know her better. Okay, so we have some items to go over with you all today. So welcome, thanks for calling in, we're glad to have you on. And we are gonna talk a little bit today about sending in pre-consent logs. We had some changes with that and just wanna go over frequently asked questions, best practices, and common mistakes. Just a brief update on contracts. Then our activation and recruitment updates, new reports and exceptions that you will be seeing that are coming out this week, I believe, that's the plan. A few updates on study monitoring, and then some updates on study conduct. The first one is refilling medications, SOP that has changed a little bit since our last month's call. So I want to go over that, those changes. Then the pharmacy notifications that hopefully y'all are getting, and another staff transition that we wanted to make you aware of. So that is the plan for today. So our pre-consent data FAQs, these are just some, most of the time we get the pre-consent logs from everyone, but I know there are times when we don't, and so just a friendly reminder that we like to receive them by Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time for the previous week, and you can send those to Combine Help at cchmc.org. If there's no change in your data, should you still send in your log? Yes, you should. We get that question regularly enough, so we just like to repeat it here that we want to see it even if there's no change, just so we can document that. We know you're aware, we know you're taking note of any patients you can identify, and then you're sending that to us. And then what do you do if you're out of the office? If you could notify Josh at Combine Help, you can just send it to that same email. Josh Baugh will take a look at that, and that way he can mark it on his tracker, so he knows he won't be receiving the log for that week. And so when our team gets together for our engagement calls, we can say, this is why this didn't come this week, or this is why this didn't come for 2 weeks, and we will not reach out and bug you. Okay, and so some other best practices that we want you to know, we have sent this out in the past couple of newsletters, but I know sometimes you don't always get to the newsletter, so we just want to also verbally state that we have had some changes, and we just want to make sure no PHI is sent over email unless the email is secure. We've had just a couple of instances of that happening, and we're all human, and I know that happens sometimes, but just some updates into what all is considered PHI. All of those there that are listed, please either take out if you're not sending securely, or leave in and just send securely to that Combine Help or email address. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Josh and discuss that, but we really want to make sure we're not doing that so that we don't have to get back to the IRB and state that we had more PHI come over. And then since the log is cumulative, your numbers should not decrease in most categories under than the number of patients considering consent. And so we just want to make sure. We've had some instances of people maybe going through, approaching someone, consenting someone, and then realizing maybe that person should not have been consented, and then that person's not randomized, which is okay. That happens. But we don't want you to go back then and change it to saying that the person wasn't, or probably more likely you'd change it to saying the person wasn't eligible after you already went through all those steps, and then it looks really wonky in our data if you're saying you approached them, they weren't eligible, and they consented. So you just leave that, and we will know afterwards that something happened and that they weren't randomized, and we'll catch that on the back end rather than you changing your pre-consent log. If that did not make sense, or if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to Josh or I, and we will try to make that more clear. But essentially, we don't want you going back and changing numbers after you already had them in there, because that results in us having to reach out and ask a lot of questions and try to figure out why you're backtracking and taking that person out of there. Okay, and so these are some common mistakes. What I just mentioned, going back to mark a patient that was approached and originally eligible is ineligible. So again, we'll catch that on the back end. If a patient is marked as consented, they should also be marked as approached. So you want to make sure that those numbers coincide. And then not providing a reason that the patient will not be participating in the study. So sometimes somebody will approach someone and then mark that they're not interested, but not actually give us a reason. And those reasons are very helpful to us and very helpful for the study. So please always put in a reason. And if you have questions about your reason or a category or what it should go into, again, you can feel free to reach out to Josh or I, and we can make sure that that makes sense and is the reason that somebody is not consenting. So those are kind of the main items that Josh is running into and our team is running into weekly. And so we just wanted to make those known and let you know that you're always welcome to reach out if you have any questions about that. Okay, for contracts, just a brief update.
Michelle?
Sure.
Hey, it's Mike. Can I just ask some questions and maybe make some comments as well?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
For the pre-consent logs, it sounds like it's fine if they contain some of the PHI as you define, but that it always ought to be sent as a secure encrypted email. Do I understand that correctly?
Correct. That is correct, yes.
And so sites don't need to go through the process of removing PHI. All they need to do on a weekly basis is use their email server's method to send it to the Combine email address as a secure email.
Correct. Yeah, as
right?
long as you're sending it securely, everything is, just fine.
Yeah, so at least at UNC, it's send it off, and then somewhere in the subject line, just put parentheses, secure, close parentheses, and I think every institution probably has a way of sending a secure encrypted email. Let me just pause and ask if there's anyone on the call who doesn't know how to send a secure email from your site's email server. We should be doing that for PROs and all that sort of stuff anyway, so it should be relatively straightforward. Perfect. And then the other clarifying thing I wanted to mention is sort of what is the purpose of that pre-consent log? And really there are two purposes, and hopefully we're well enough into the study by now that you all know this, and forgive me for being repetitive. I'm kind of like my grandmother. But one purpose is a tool for sites so that they can, cast a wide net and figure out everyone who may be sort of potentially eligible, do a little bit of pre-screening, exclude the patients that have obvious contraindications to methotrexate, or even those patients who may appear on your list that don't even have Crohn's to begin with, or have been on 8 different anti-TNFs beforehand, or whatever it may be, and sort of fine tune the ones that are worth approaching. And there's some dates in there that helps sites to sort of know when they need to approach and consent and randomize that patient by. So a good reason for the pre-consent logs is to help sites sort of develop their internal workflows of identifying and approaching patients. The second is to help our study team know how well the sites are doing at identifying and consenting and randomizing patients so that we can identify high performers and learn from them, as well as to learn about the study. And again, when we understand why patients and families say no, or why centers have a hard time approaching patients and families, we can develop materials or change the protocol as needed, so that we can ultimately reach as many participants as possible and give as many families the opportunity to participate. So sort of a tool for the sites and a tool for us as a combined team. After a patient says yes and signs the consent, then we hear about them in our combined database, and we can track through the inclusion and exclusion criteria and figure out who consented but ultimately wasn't able to be randomized because they didn't meet the inclusion exclusion criteria. Once they're in the combined database because they've consented, again, there's just no reason to go back to the pre-consent log and change anything. The pre-consent log is exactly that. It's a pre-consent. So anything that happens after consent and during screening that prohibits randomization, we capture that again on the combined side. So I hope that clarification is somewhat helpful. We don't have a huge agenda today. We can take some questions about the whole sort of pre-consent process if any sites have them, and otherwise I'll let Michelle move on with the rest of our agenda.
Okay, I'm not hearing any questions, so I will move on, but if something comes up, you can type something into the chat and let me know you have a question, and I will try to catch that before the end of the call, or you can speak up and I will stop. Okay, we don't have a huge group today. All right, so contracts, you should have received your contract renewal from Bridget Kellner via the Combined Contracts and Payments email by the end of December. If you did not, or you don't know if you received yours, feel free to reach out to me. I know that a lot of them were sent to the contracting contacts at your site, so you may not have been copied on it if you are the coordinator. All the PIs should have been copied too, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to help you. Okay, site activation numbers. We're still at 41 sites selected and 35 activated. We have had some extra steps that we have to do at our IRB that have nothing to do with any sites, just something that our IRB wanted. So Stephanie Sullivan is working hard on that. And after that, she will be submitting 2 more sites to our IRB. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks that will happen. And then the other 4 are in the early stages of returning all their IRB documents, essential documents, contracting, and working on their training. So we are getting some stuff back from them, which is great, and hope to have them activated by next month. We are at 117 patients randomized as of last Friday, which is wonderful. And we have 28 sites that have recruited at least 1 patient. Cincinnati and CHKD are still in the lead. CHKD is inching out there, so that's where we are with recruitment. This is you all get this graph, this chart in the newsletter, so you can take a closer look at it there if you would like. I know the names are small there, but you should be able to see them within the newsletter and take a look at how people are doing. And then this is our cumulative number of patients recruited and randomized. And so now that we have more sites activated and more sites recruiting, our gap is still there for sure, but it has not grown, and it has actually started decreasing a little bit. So we're hopeful that as we get everyone activated and everyone enrolling and randomizing patients, that will continue to get smaller as we reach our goal of 425. So thank you all for working hard and closing that gap. The next thing we wanted to talk about, and I think Dan is on the line too, so he can chime in with any more information that I leave out, but there is one report that is going to be released at the end of this week. It's a hospitalization report, and it will show non-IBD related hospitalizations for patients that are enrolled in Combine. So you should be able to go into, I believe, the Combine area of the registry and take a look at that report. And then 2 exceptions that are rolling out are non-visit labs and research labs. Dan, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I'm in the car, so I'll be brief. The only other piece of information that'll be useful is that there will be a brief downtime Friday morning where the registry and the combined site, or not the site, but the forms are offline while we make these changes. We expect everything to be back up no later than noon Eastern, and I'll send some communications out. Just a reminder of the downtime, and then another note once everything's back online.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm sure that will be helpful for people trying to get in, and me when I start getting all the emails. Okay, so study monitoring. I know Janine Dahlquist has been reaching out to some of you, and we did have this on the last call, and we have put this in the newsletter, but just a reminder that a data soft lock is coming at the end of this month, and all sites that had at least 1 participant visit on or before December 31st of 2017 will be involved in this quality review. All visits that occurred before December 31st must be entered into the database, and all queries resolved prior to January 31st. So if you know you have some exceptions, some queries out there, please go in and work on those. And then Janina is going to start reviewing those January 31st or February 1st, whatever. Please be aware that there will be no delay in data entry for ongoing visits at any time. So you can still enter your data. That's not going to affect your data in any way. And then she is doing this to enable a quality review of the combined data, and you will be notified via email of missing or discrepant data and asked to provide a response within 2 weeks of notification. So starting early February, Janine will start reaching out to people if she notices any missing or discrepant data, and she will just be working with you on that.
Hey, Michelle, just a quick thing to add. It would also be a good time for all of the sites to make sure that they are up to date with all of the provider reviews as well. We do have a report so that coordinators can identify which of their providers are delinquent in signing off on provider reviews, and it would be good to get all of those done by the end of this month, by the end of January.
Okay, thank you. And a couple other items that Janine wanted everyone to be aware of, and I think we have put this in a past newsletter too, but we want to really make sure people are doing this. So if a participant misses a visit, please reach out to them via phone and document even the failed attempts on your phone call CRF, and you can log multiple attempts to the same shipment number. So if you're participant in the system, you're notified that your participant, the med shipped, you think they received them, you're calling to verify that they did, you cannot get a hold of them, please mark that down in your phone call CRF. And that just shows Janine as the monitor that you are really looking out for the safety of the study participant on the part of the site. So please do that. And then also, if you still never get a hold of them, you call them a few times, you log all this. At their next visit, please, look in the system when they're coming in and just either you can try to see them then or talk with the physician or however you would do that at your site to ensure that someone is checking to see if they did receive the medications and if they did start them. So you can put that in your log as well, just so we have documentation of that. We just want to really make sure that those reach outs are being done and there's documentation if whether you talk to them or not. We have a paper trail. And then lastly, Janine is in the process of reaching out to more sites regarding the participants being monitored at your site. And so please look for those emails. I saw, I think, one go out yesterday. So I know she's starting to reach out to people and she'll be talking with you at your site. I know some of you have already been monitored and either have finished that process or in the middle of going through your discrepant data and fixing that. So I appreciate all your work you're doing on that. Okay, so this his process has changed a little bit since the last call, not greatly, but we just kind of put a few other caveats in there. So we wanted to go over that again with you today because we do get questions, a number of questions about what to do when patients get a new medication shipment. And so in talking with people and learning from people, we are trying to make this process a little better and a little more clear. So we did put this in the newsletter as well, but we want to make sure everyone is paying attention to it. So what we would like to do ideally is that after they get the new medication shipment, you all can instruct the patient and family to take the study medications from their first shipment through week 13 or their last week of their current shipment. So if it's a later shipment, and then before switching to the next shipment. So if it's that first shipment, that would be at week 14. And then if it's a later shipment, later than that. But that is the goal. So instruct them to take the medications through the last week of your current shipment. If the patient or family does not know which week they are on, the site's staff should be able to hopefully help them figure this out by going back to the date that the first shipment was sent and their first reported dose was taken. So you hopefully can have that information via follow-up call, but as we just talked about, those don't always happen as we like. And so if, well, I'll say this first. So the patient and family may also use the study medication guide as a tool to help keep track of the study medication use. Every family should get that from you all as they enroll in the study. And then if it is impossible to determine the exact week of the treatment the patient is on, the patient may start on the next shipment once it is received. So if you went through the first two steps and you are unable to determine which week they are on, then you can just instruct them to take the new shipment as it comes and then ask them to return all those unused medications to you at the clinic at their next visit, and then you will be in charge of destroying them. So what has changed is that first part of us asking you to try to work with them to take the medications of their current shipment that they're on through the last week of that current shipment. Do you all, since that is a change, do you all have any questions about that or any comments about that before we move on? Okay.
Hey, Michelle,
Great.
I wonder if we could just sort of leave a little bit of time or use a little bit of time to talk about sort of generally how things are working with patients getting shipments from the pharmacy, whether it's their first shipment or refills? How's that process going? Are there any snafus that sites are noticing that we should be aware of?
Sure, that sounds fine. We're almost done here. So these are just some pictures of what medication shipments look like, and that's what they should be seeing, what you all can be seeing as well if they bring the meds in. So pharmacy notifications, you should now be receiving email notifications directly from the pharmacy every time the study medication is shipped, and the email comes from that address up there, which is trackinginfo@biologicsinc.com. It will note all the information stated, the patient ID, shipment date, FedEx tracking number, and quantity of the tablets included in the shipment. If you have not been receiving these notifications and have checked your junk mail folder and they're not there, please let me know and I can reach out to the pharmacy and get that remedied. And you may still monitor the pharmacy shipment report in the registry as a backup tool. So that is still available for you. And just as a quick reminder, you go into the registry and then you click on the combined trial area on the right of your screen. That will bring you to this screen. You can click View Reports. And then on the left of your screen, you will see the pharmacy shipment report. If you click on that, you can, as you see at the top, you can search for the participant you're looking for or search for your center ID, even though I just blacked those out, even though it's really not PHI. We just did that. And then, so it will give you the center number, the patient ID, and then the shipment number, the date the system was notified, the shipment type. So it will tell you if it's a randomized, the first one, or a follow-up shipment, and then the shipping date. So that will give you all that information in there. If you see that something was shipped in the system and you did not receive that notification, feel free to reach out to me, but that is a great backup tool for you to keep using as well. And then, as we just talked about, remember to call the family after each shipment. And then our last bit of information that we wanted to convey, I don't know if any of you are working directly with Danielle Godfrey, but she is no longer working at CCHMC. And so if you were working directly with her on anything, feel free to reach out to me and I will make sure you are connected with the right person. So that is all we have. These are just that's our general slide that always put up at the end for who's who with Combine. And now we can add Darlene into that slide as well. And that is all I have. So Mike, we have about 3 minutes if we want to take any questions from anyone or any comments about how the shipments are going and how that's working. Was there anything specific, Mike, that you wanted answered or wanted feedback about?
No, just sort of wanted to check in and check the pulse and see how everything is going. You know, the use of a central pharmacy for clinical trials is sort of a very novel aspect of trial design. So I just wanted to make sure that it's working, you know, well enough now that we have so many patients who have gotten not only their first shipment, but multiple refills at this point. But hearing not much for discussion, I assume everyone's either asleep or things are working well enough.
Sounds like it.
By a group.
Okay, well, we can be finished then. Thank you all for calling in, and we appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great rest of the week.
Bye, everyone.